How do you change minds about the Second Amendment? Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking. Tom, it's impossible to change someone's mind. Maybe their politics, their worldview, their perspective, whatever. Maybe when they're young, but not once they're out of high school or something like that. You are so wrong. I went to the Republican National Convention protesters. I was chatting with a number of individuals. In this video, you are going to see the trajectory that one very nice person took from being, before we got the cameras rolling, she was articulating a whole bunch of extremely anti-gun views. And I didn't try to engage with that much. I wanted to get it all on camera. I asked her if she would be willing to go on camera and talk about this. She very graciously said yes. What you're going to see is my conversation with her, where we go from being anti-gun to being, I'm going to naively say, pro-gun. Now, I don't know how much backsliding there's been. And Peggy, if you're out there, please feel free to reach out. I'd love to have a follow-up conversation with you, answer any questions and so forth. But folks, this is how you approach people. This is how you can change minds. So without further ado, let's see my conversation with Peggy. We are here at the RNC protest, this time with an individual by the name of Nurse Peggy. Nurse Peggy, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
So we're going to go through our quiz, and as I explained before, we've had some people rock it and do an amazing job. We've had some people have not such a great outing.
I think I might be in the latter.
That's okay. That's okay.
Maybe I'll learn something.
And then at the end, I'd love to hear about your perspectives about the Second Amendment, its past, its future. Who's it for? Should it just be struck down and ruled out? Okay? So first question for you, and this is kind of the ringer-only question. Get this one. Okay. AR-15, what does the AR letters stand for? AR and AR-15.
Okay, I want to say automatic rifle, but I think that's what I'm going to go with.
Okay, a low-confidence automatic rifle?
Yes.
Okay, and you would be correct to be low confidence because it actually stands for Armalite Rifle. Armalite Rifle was the company that invented the AR-15 back in the day. Yeah, but that was good. You hedged your bets. We've had some people go all in on it, so that was smart. Next, rank order these as far as how many deaths it's related to in America each year. We've got 4 things, okay? We have lawnmowers, swimming pools.
Okay.
This one's a bit spicy. Autoerotic asphyxiation,
Okay.
and AR-15s. So lawnmowers, swimming pools, autoerotic asphyxiation, AR-15s. From contributes the most deaths to the least deaths.
Okay,
Where do you think they go?
I'm going to say swimming pools the most. I guess I'm going to go autoerotic for the second.
That's correct and correct.
Okay.
2 for 2.
And then I'm going to say lawnmowers fourth. So that puts the weapons third.
Yeah, so lawnmowers, it's actually really close. In any given year, they could trade spots. So we're going to call that one right. Okay. AR-15s are usually about 60-ish on average. Lawnmowers are typically around 70. Autoerotic asphyxiation, 160. Swimming pools, about 380 Americans in any given year. I think you're a little bit of a ringer on that one with your medical background training. You knew to watch out for swimming pools, didn't you?
Oh yeah, swimming pools, yeah. I've been a nurse so long that I've seen a revolution from measuring urine sugar to kids that use their telephones to, they have pumps and then they have glucose monitors that can, it's like a miracle.
It's a real life changer. I know my father-in-law has one of those devices that goes into your arm and then it beeps when it gets too high or too low. And yeah, no, that's a complete life changer.
Yeah.
So, all right, we're going to ask some questions about the defensive use of firearms in America each year.
Okay.
So how many defensive gun uses? So this does not mean someone was actually shot or someone was killed, but just it could have been someone's being attacked, they produce a firearm, bad guys run away. Okay, how many defensive gun uses are there each year in the United States? A, none. Okay. B, 10,000. C, 100,000. D, 1 million. Or E, 2.5 million.
10,000?
2.5 million, according for the 2013 Center for Disease Control presidential study ordered by President Barack Obama to investigate exactly how many defensive gun uses are there in the United States a year?
Here's a prowler, or they think somebody's breaking in or something, and they go and get their gun.
This could be anything from a single mom walking home on the wrong side of the tracks, someone tries to attack her. Well, so this next question, about how many times per year do women use guns to defend themselves against sexual violence? Is it A, never, B, 500 times a year, C, 1,000 times a year, or D, 192,500 times per year?
1,000.
D, 192,000. I know some of these questions, the average answer gets better as time moves along, right? Right, and again, that's piggybacking on largely the same study. About 7.7% of defensive gun uses each year are women defending themselves against sexual violence. All right, true or false? This one kind of piggybacks on that one. In 1966, the city of Orlando responded to a wave of sexual assaults by offering free firearm training classes for women. Rapes dropped the following year by 90%.
I'm going to say true.
Peggy's a smart cookie. That would be true. That is exactly what happened. But let's jump over to England and Wales.
Okay.
So England and Wales passed two major laws effectively banning most of the civilian ownership of private weapons, first in 1988 and again in 1997. Since that time, the number of reported rapes went from about 2,000 attacks per year to A, none, it actually decreased, B, stayed about the same, C, a 10% increase, or D, a 700% increase?
It's a whole different culture. I mean, their police don't even carry guns mostly. They carry like bobby sticks, nightsticks. I'm going to say it didn't change.
Didn't change. They went from about 2,000 attacks a year to over 14,000 attacks per year. And that's according to different systems, similar outcomes, tracking attrition and reported rape cases in 11 countries, a 2009 study. Here's another true or false. This one comes from the Department of Justice National Crime Victimization Survey. So we're back to the United States. True or false? Victims who have and use guns have both lower loss of life and lesser injury rates when defending themselves against violent attackers.
False.
True. Let's look at the statistics for this. So the question is, how much better are you using a firearm against a physical attacker? Okay, so imagine you've got three options. You got three boxes here, right? Someone, God forbid, is physically assaulting another person, and A, you go along with it. You just offer no resistance, just take whatever you want. Here's my wallet, here's my cell phone, right? B, you try to physically strike back, so you physically resist. Or C, you resist with firearms, specifically with a firearm. Okay. Which category do you think you have the least chance of loss of life and the lowest chance of being seriously injured?
I guess if you use a firearm.
What makes you say that?
I don't know. If you don't put up any resistance, okay, maybe they leave you alone and take whatever they want. If you fight back, you're going to get hurt. I don't know.
So the statistics are actually different if men fight back versus if women fight back. And they're only different by matter of degree. It's the same do this, not that, but it differs from men to women. I'm happy to give you the numbers if you'd like. The probability of serious injury during an attack is 2.5 times higher for women who do not resist their attacker compared to women who fight back with a firearm. So you're 250% more likely to be injured if you go along with your attacker than if you produce a firearm in self-defense. And for women, oh, by the way, and women who resist with a gun are about 4 times more likely to not be seriously injured compared to women who fight back but are not armed with a gun.
Okay, see, my concern is that what if I fight back with a gun and I get injured by my own gun?
100% correct. There are options on the table. We might have statistics coming up on this shortly.
Okay.
Your head's in the right place, Nurse Peggy. All right, and just for what it's worth for men are 1.5 times more likely to be seriously injured compared to if they offer resistance by way of firearms. So it's 2.5 times more likely to come out better with a gun for women versus physically resist as compared to men. So again, the answer is both times use a gun, but and of course, I would just piggyback on that and say, be trained, right? Don't just, no one's advocating irresponsible, yahoos and all that kind of stuff, right? So I want you to imagine that a firearm is used in a crime. For each time a firearm is used in a crime, about how many defensive gun uses are there? Is it less than one? So in other words, there are more uses of a firearm in crime, or is it more than one? There are more defensive gun uses. Less than one?
Yeah.
So you think there are more guns are more likely to be used attacking someone than defending someone?
Yes.
So according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics National Crime Victimization Survey of 2005, a firearm, each time it's used in the offensive, it's used defensively about 6 times. It's a 6-to-1 ratio of firearms being used defensively versus offensively. What do you think about that?
I think you were trying to lead me there, and I just didn't want to go there.
There's no pretense that I'm not trying to lead people places, but we've been getting a lot of same reactions, a lot of just, what?
Yeah.
All right. For every time a firearm is misused in the commission of a homicide, how many lives are estimated to be saved with a gun? So for every time a firearm is misused in a homicide, how many times are lives saved in a gun?
I'm just going to go with the previous answer and say 6.
6? Well, the last time was just uses of crime guns versus defense guns. Here, I'll skip to the chase. It's for every time someone misuses a firearm as part of a homicide, there are 34.367 lives saved. So the actual raw numbers are 390,000 lives estimated to be saved from firearms versus 11,348 taken from homicides.
So wait a minute, back up a little bit. What is misuse of a gun during a homicide?
Well, a lot of times people use the language that, well, the gun killed someone, right? Okay. And that's kind of like saying, well, the car drunk drove itself, right?
Okay.
That's what I mean by misused a firearm. Just like you misuse alcohol and you misuse cars so you get loaded on a night.
Intentionally caused the homicide.
Or negligently caused the homicide. But the point of the matter is that this isn't a situation where the firearm just quote unquote went off.
It wasn't a hunting accident where you, okay.
Right, yeah. We're talking about something more than an accident or something like that, okay?
So, spoiler alert, she's going to go from being very anti-gun at the front of this conversation to actually being, at least in that moment, reasonably pro-gun. We're not talking all the way there, but you'll see by the end of this conversation, she's reasonably pro-gun. And credit goes to her for having that open-mindedness to it that far too many people do not have. What I'm curious about from you guys is this. 2 things. Number 1, what do you think was her aha moment? When do you feel like she went from anti-gun to pro-gun? If you can put your finger on that moment, let me know. Number 2, what was your favorite question that I asked? It didn't have to be part of the quiz. It could be something separate from the little quiz questions I had. But let me know in the comment field below, what was your favorite question or multiple questions that you think were particularly impactful for Peggy, or maybe just for you or your friends or someone that you have in mind as well. Let me know in the comment section below. And of course, don't forget to hit that like button. Let me know that you like these walk and talk style videos. And who knows, the Democratic National Convention is around the corner. Maybe I'll try to talk to people there as well. Back to the program.
This one specifically is looking at home invasions in America. So true or false? And I think you'll probably know if it's true or false here. But the number of times per year an American uses a firearm to stop a home invasion alone is 498,000 times per year.
I think that's true.
Peggy, you got it. It's true. You got it. That's absolutely true. All right, and then here's another one for you. This goes back to the question you asked me earlier. Okay. True or false? When using guns in self-defense, 91.1% of the time, not a single shot ever has to be fired. True or false?
91%, no, false.
True.
According to the National Crime Victimization Survey of Federal Bureau of Justice Statistics, when you produce a firearm in self-defense greater than...
Show it to the person, and that makes them back off.
Correct. About over 90% of the time. And there's different groups that have done similar studies. I think the range that I've seen on it, and I don't have these numbers in front of me right now, it goes somewhere between about 87 to 94% of the time. The mere production of a defensive firearm is enough to end the attack.
Oh, you're making me want to go out and get a gun.
I'm not connected with the firearm industry. I wouldn't make any nickels off that. But, my whole goal with this is just to make sure that people understand the powers that we're giving up. And when I say people, I mean the people.
Yeah.
That people are giving away power and rights, because we're only been talking about crime, of course, right?
Yeah.
Because fundamentally, the Second Amendment has two prongs to it. And I'd love to get some of your perspectives on this in a moment. But, the first prong is we're talking about bad guys, streets, that kind of stuff, right? The second prong into it gets into kind of these more vague and thankfully in our times somewhat abstract concepts, though perhaps less abstract depending upon your political persuasion these days. We're talking about dictatorships, tyranny, things like that, right? So true or false? According to one study, 41.3% of active shooter events were stopped by armed citizens. And then outside of gun-free zones, that rate actually climbed to 63.5% of active shooter events being stopped by armed citizens.
I feel like you're leading me to true. Okay.
Yeah. You got it. All right. And then here's the last one for you. And it deals with the question of who carries guns, who carries firearms. And would it surprise you to learn that people who carry concealed carry licenses, so people who have a license to carry a concealed firearm in public, are 5.7 times less likely to be arrested for violent offenses compared to the general public, and are 13.5 times less likely to be arrested for nonviolent offenses compared to the general public.
Okay, so, again, I think it would be a good idea with all these questions for me to go out and get a gun.
As long as you get the training to go with it, right?
Yeah, right.
So I want to ask you, what's some of your views about the Second Amendment? Obviously, you just survived this gauntlet of questions, but just outside of that, what's your view of the Second Amendment? Why do we have it?
Yeah, I think the Second Amendment was originally intended for a well-armed militia, and we're 200 years away from that, over 200 years away. So I don't think it means the same thing. You could have a weapon under the Second Amendment, but I think only military need automatic weapons. Background checks, I think, are really important. They're not going to solve all the problems of gun violence, but they would be a start. Why can't we make a start?
Is it your position that the Second Amendment exists to give states the right to have a National Guard?
Yes. Yeah.
And does it give people the right to own firearms outside of participation in that militia or National Guard?
I don't think it was intended originally to, but now I think it does. And there have been lots of court rulings and lots of cases, and I think that's fine. If the Bill of Rights can be modified over time.
Well, it can be modified. There's a couple of different routes on how, of course, it can be modified to introduce new constitutional amendments and things like that.
Even the enforcement, though, or even the administration of the Bill of Rights, I think, has maybe changed over time, and I think that's okay.
Okay. So, do you think that people should have an individual right to own firearms?
Yes.
And where, if anywhere, would you draw the line on the types of firearms that can be owned?
I just don't think there should be any semi-automatic or automatic. Even if only a few deaths have been caused, I still don't think.
Because there's no legitimate sporting purpose, or I guess what leads you to that?
Yeah, no legitimate sporting purpose, yeah. And even self-defense, no. If you can just show the bad guy your weapon and that scares him off, then why do we need an automatic weapon for that? No.
So is it your position that the Second Amendment only exists to deal with bad guys who are breaking into your home?
No. So National Guard can have, according to the Second Amendment, and sporting purposes can have Second Amendment rights.
Is what you're saying that the Second Amendment exists so that people can hunt?
Hunt or do whatever purpose they want to do, protect themselves, yeah, or do sports shooting, trap shooting, whatever.
So protect themselves against who?
They can also protect themselves against somebody breaking in. I have had my perspective completely turned around in this interview.
Anything that I guess you would like to share with past Peggy before we started this?
I would say, well, Peggy, the numbers don't lie. And you've kind of had your logic turned on its head.
Thanks.
So there you have it. Let me know what you think about all of this. Is this something that only worked with this one person? It's obviously not going to reach everyone. We tried to interview a whole bunch of different people. Most people just said no. They refused to talk to me. And that's okay, because you don't have to win over everyone. We just have to win over enough. Enough to change the prevailing winds that it feels like we're always fighting against. So thanks for sticking around to the end of this video. Let's do our quote of the day. This one comes from noted psychologist Carl Jung, who wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." I'm not saying that's always correct, but I think there's something deeply insightful about that. Thanks for sticking around, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you enjoyed this one, please feel free to check out some of our other great content, and we'll see you in the next one.